They say this week in the month of February is World Cancer Day, Cancer Week, but for some Nigerians they've been about the public sector corruption, which they say is another cancer hitting and eating deep into the fabric of the nation. Joining us to look at the public sector corruption this morning is the Executive Secretary of the Civil Liberties Organization, CLO, Ezike Ibuchukwu. Good morning.
Good morning. God bless Nigeria.
Yes, God bless Nigeria. A wonderful prayer we should and we must pray daily. But how blessed are we when we talk about the fight against corruption? Are we getting near where we should be in this fight?
I cannot be getting near when we've not started. We've not resumed the struggle or the campaign against corruption.
Okay, when you say we've not resumed, that means there was, well, a start in the first place, but maybe there was a break, and now we're talking about resumption.
There's no damn fight. We've not started. I'm sorry to have said resumed. We've not started.
Well, when would you say we have started? I mean, why did you say we haven't started, and when would you say we have started?
Why I said we have not started, and when we say we've not started, is when you see monumental corruption, abuse of due process, non-enforcement of rule of law, abuse of human rights, you know. And if you had listened to the last man who was here, Barrister Chima, he was almost crying, you know, talking about the Nigerian situation. And so the issue is that if you, a small man or woman steals a tuber of yam to prepare something for her children because he or she was frustrated, is jailed, put in jail for 20, 30 years. If you go to the prisons, because the Civil Liberties Organization has been involved in prison issues over the years, you see somebody who has not even committed any crime, who has not been tried and convicted by a court of competent jurisdiction, and who has languished in prisons for 20, 15, 5 years. And somebody steals billions, who has committed murder, committed all kinds of atrocities and crime against humanity, and the person is given a pass mark. A party is organized for him or her to celebrate him or her for having killed the society and stolen the society. So is that started? Is that a way to say that you have started the campaign against corruption? Tell me one big issue about corruption that this country has handled.
The thing is, I mean, you've painted two very different scenarios. That somebody, you know, is awaiting trial, and we know that we have a problem there. But you also painted a scenario where you said that someone who is corrupt is celebrated. Do we celebrate corruption? Have we seen anywhere where somebody is found guilty and the person is celebrated at the end of the day?
If you're talking about being found guilty
or celebrated, you know, after the person has done something wrong, I don't think that we're being fair or factual in that particular picture we've painted.
It's very correct. You recall that sometimes in the past, the former chairman of PDP in Southwest was imprisoned for corruption purposes.
He was. That's the important part.
When he came out of prison, what happened? He wasn't
celebrated. He was convicted and he served his term.
And when he came out of the prison, they organized a party for him. They organized a party to celebrate somebody who could have been, you know, hiding himself or herself in shame.
You know, we're talking about public sector corruption, but it wasn't. I think the party was a personal thing, wasn't it?
He was convicted of corruption.
No, I'm talking about the reception for him. Maybe it was a family affair.
It wasn't a family affair. The former president of this country regretted to have been involved in that party. He said he was deceived. That they were asking him to come and, you know, be part of a church celebration to thank the Almighty Father that he served his prison terms. But after that,
was it the party that organized that party? That's very important. I mean, or was it a personal family affair?
For the president,
they invited their friends.
The president sent a representative to that party. The former president was there. You know, various public office holders were there. So are you saying that if somebody has committed a crime in the society, instead of avoiding him or her, you go and be part of him or her? That is despicable and irreprehensible.
Let's look at the public sector proper now and also try to highlight some of the issues. It ranges from even this man you would want to call the small man or the little man in some of these offices, in some of these places, moving your file from one point to the other, and sometimes, well, right before your very own eyes, your own file could disappear until something gives and the file resurfaced. We started seeing all of that, and people thought it was business as usual. It was the normal thing. It was the norm, until those who are in the higher echelon of the civil service, like the director who was just convicted, Yakubu, we now saw that well, they were also into the business of the small man who moves files from one desk to the other. How did we get here, and how can we beam our searchlight into such places and actually fish out these bad guys in our midst?
Well, ordinarily, the corruption issue was condemned in Africa before the advent of colonialism. You know, if a man or a woman, if somebody stays in our own society, the person is stripped naked, and you know, a raffia palm is tied around him or her and taken to public places like the market square, the village square, you know, where people boo him or her, and he is isolated. That was African society before the coming of the white. And so when they came, the people that, you know, joined the white man in his or her business was not the you know, a man or a child who was you know, dear to the father or the mother or the parents or the society. You know, those ones that were allowed to go to school or allowed to go to the churches were the ones that were violent, the ones that were not, you know, that had no values, you know, the one that the society jettisoned.
Wasn't that in some societies?
Pardon?
Does that cut across all of pre-colonial Nigeria?
Pre-colonial
I mean, that particular account.
There was no society in pre-colonial Nigeria that condoned corruption, because they saw the.
Okay, that's the point you're trying to bring out.
They saw civil service as a, you know, somebody going to that place to loot, so that if you go into that place and steal, your people celebrate you because you have, you know, stolen the white man's property or thing. So the white man taught us on how to steal, and that's why they call it corruption. In my society, where I come from, I'm an Igbo man, it's called Nswana. When you commit Nswana, it's an abomination or taboo. You isolated.
Can you literally define the Nswani?
Nswana is abomination.
Okay.
When you commit, you know, evils against the earth goddess. The earth goddess, that is Anna. So if somebody commits such atrocity or such crime, he's isolated, has become an outcast in that society. You know, but if somebody steals from the civil service and comes home, he's celebrated because he has stolen from the white man's thing. So he's not seen as the property belonging to the society. That was where this abnormally started.
So, do we have to continue that path of?
No, we don't have to continue it, because now civilized persons, people who are responsible, are now in the civil service. They have gone to school, unlike in those days when the outcast, when I mean outcast, are people who are not respected.
But it is believed that it is worse now than it was before. It's
worse now because
now that the people that are educated.
Yeah, because of the way we are condoning it. Because when somebody steals, and instead of isolating him or her, it becomes a celebrated person, an entity that everybody would like to go to, unlike in those days when you isolate him or her. Now, if somebody steals and you don't punish him, unlike in those days when if you steal, you are stripped naked and you are taken to the public square or public places where people boo you. These days, you steal and you are celebrated. You go to the church, you give thanksgiving for having stolen the property and killed a lot of persons and gotten free.